It's Neurocus here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about Chrono Odyssey. Again, they just dropped the NDA for their playtest. So we had a bunch of creators dropping their early reviews and impressions for the game. I watched a lot of these videos and I thought it would be kind of great to draw some kind of a general consensus around the game. How are these creators feeling about the game at the moment, after spending quite a lot of time in the game? There is a couple disclaimers here though. I haven't played the game myself, so everything here is based around other content creators and their experiences with the game. Also, the version of the game they were playing seems to be a bit older, so you can take that as you will. The TLDR here, if you don't want to watch the whole video, is that overwhelming consensus amongst the creators seems to be that they are cautiously optimistic. The game seems to have a potential in like the core foundations, but nearly everyone agreed that the game is seriously lacking some polish. But yeah, let's talk about what specifically creators found good about the game and what they found not so good about the game. The number one thing that everyone seems to agree with is the Souls-like action combat and weapon swapping. Everyone seems to be highlighting this as a major strength for the game, which is very promising when the combat is like the first thing that everyone is hyped about. It's described as a true action combat, no tap targeting. It seems to be challenging, punishing, and requires skill, with iframe dodges, parries, and meaningful attacks. A lot of people made some comparisons to Dark Souls and New World. I know the New World combat is quite divisive to people, but in my opinion, it's one of the best action combats we have. It has the most potential, but they haven't fully reached the full potential yet, and probably never will, if you know how New World is going. And then people seem to love the weapon swapping ability to have 2 different weapons out of 3 right now, and you can swap them mid-combat since their cooldowns are separated. Being said that they like create this deep, fluid strategic system that encourages build diversity and active gameplay. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this weapon swapping trend, but I think it's mainly because I don't like the system where where the weapons define your class, like in New World. But I think it's fine here because you're actually picking your class and then you're picking a weapon for that class. So I always love the system in Guild Wars 2. You still have the class identity, but then you're kind of able to pick a different weapons depending on your playstyle and how you like playing. So I can see that being like a good thing. They just have to add more weapons, I guess. Having only 3 options and you have to pick 2 out of them, it seems a bit limited, but it is what it is. I'm sure they plan on adding more weapons to the game. The second thing that everyone seems to love is the open world and how rewarding the exploration feels. Everyone is kind of praising the world for being seamless, open environment where you can climb, swim, explore, pretty much without limits. I feel like this is something every MMO basically should have anyway, but maybe that's just me. I also love the whole feeling of adventure. The progression isn't linear, so you're getting rewarded for getting distracted by like the dynamic events, some bosses, hidden puzzles, and other dungeons, which is something I think a lot of people are looking forward in an MMO, in an MMORPG, is this kind of a getting distracted and kind of losing your way instead of like following the rails. So hearing that that's a case in Chrono Odyssey is definitely promising. The next thing people seem to be really happy about the game is the whole class system and its flexibility. There's no general classes, which is pretty awesome. Skill trees for the weapons seem actually kind of deep, so you're allowed to build your character in a unique way and not like subvert into traditional roles. It sounds to me pretty cool. I think that was one problem with the New World, is the fact that the skill trees for the weapons are kind of meh. They're really limited in my opinion. Like you couldn't do much with those weapons. I feel like they always needed like 3 times more choices in terms of like skills and the way you build your character. Also, the crafting and gathering seems to be a highlight for some people. They're comparing it to New World, and we know New World has some of the best like crafting and gathering out of pretty much any MMO. I'm not personally a big crafting guy, so I don't really care too much. I would be happy if I don't have to craft, but we'll see how that works. The kind of vibes I'm getting from the game, I do question a little bit how important the crafting is gonna be, like in terms of the economy and stuff. It doesn't seem like the type of game where you would be able to kind of play the economy, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll have to wait and see how that works. And then creators seem to love the unique hook that the game has, which is the chronotector. It's like a unique time manipulation mechanic, being like the cool feature of the game, allowing you to use powerful abilities like to summon defeated bosses or just stopping time. The whole time thing is this game's thing, so I'm glad that this is mentioned in a lot of the reviews as a unique and a good thing. That was pretty much the general consensus around the good things in the game. But then what were the major concerns where the game is kind of struggling with people? Obviously, number one is gonna be the performance, the bugs, the lack of polish. I think the bad performance is kind of expected at this point. If you played any other Unreal 5 games, especially the online games, I could already tell that this game is not going to run too well. People with like super high-end computers had like some issues, sometimes not being able to get 60 FPS in the game. Like it is expected, I guess, at this point, which is really sad to me, but I don't expect to run this game too high with my 3080. At least not natively. Maybe the DLSS can work its magic on this game. We'll see. People really pointed out the janky animations and visuals, like low frame rate animations of other players, just the floaty movement in general. There's some pretty heavy texture popping and a lot of like bland textures, a lot of graphical glitches. Obviously, someone could just push all this under the rug and put it on the, oh, it's just the beta category, but I think we're too close to release. I don't know if they're gonna be able to iron out all these bugs, and it's just a lot of things you have to like fix right now in like, what, 5 months? Yeah. If this game was like 12 months away, I would be way more excited. And then there was a lot of bugs and crashes, obviously, but that could be just the beta things. I'm not too worried about that. Usually that's getting ironed out. Then secondly, there was some gameplay frustrations and quality of life issues that people would like to see. People really pointed out the like brutal early game difficulty, especially with the first Chrono Gate boss being like a huge challenge for new players. Obviously, if you put like a really hard boss in the beginning of the game, it will create a lot of frustration and it will make people quit the game. That's just the major like issue. They have to tone it down, or they have to like move the boss somewhere else, I guess. I think personally I'm fine with this. Like I don't mind the challenge in the beginning, but it's really not something you expect when you go into an MMORPG, that it's gonna be hard right from the gate. So I could see a lot of people kind of just die a couple times and never touch the game again after that. There also was some struggles with the UI and some of the systems being kind of clunky. I think most part, the UI looks really clean. It definitely looks like it was more optimized for the console. Party UI is kind of terrible. People also pointed out that the camera was often too zoomed in and there was no FOV slider. This could easily cause some motion sickness for a lot of people, so it's kind of small things, but these are also things they should allow people to customize. I feel like the UI should be fully customizable in 2025 game. Like that should really be the bare minimum at this point, in my opinion. Then also the game got some flack for the shallow story and repetitive content. It seems to be a pretty common theme in the Korean MMOs that the story is always extremely shallow. You don't really remember anything. I mean, I played Lineage 2 for years and I still have no clue what the story is about. I think most people don't have any idea. And I can definitely see the repetitive content. Like it seems very boss rushy, like the whole game. Once you've done the bosses a couple times, you basically just gonna be repeating the same bosses, same mechanics. This could also be the fact that there was very limited content in the beta, so people started repeating the same stuff. I think they said that the full game is going to be like 3 times bigger than what they had access in the beta, so there's going to be more non-repetitive content later on. That's the hope. And now the special concern that nearly every creator had with the game was the promise of not having pay to win in the game. Absolutely no pay to win in game. The promise on the surface seems like a massive win, obviously. Like if it's true, we're all gonna be happy about it, right? But I think it's pretty healthy to have some skepticism on this, especially when it comes to monetization here. Publisher being Kakao Games, the company's history with all the pay-to-win mechanics. So I love that nearly everyone had this kind of a we believe it when we see it kind of a mentality towards the game's monetization. So that's pretty awesome. I do feel like them saying absolutely no pay to win is a pretty risky move, because now we're gonna look every monetization they add to the game kind of from the lens of like, is there pay to win here? Is it gonna be pay to win? Like, is it even like a slight thing that gives you advantage in a progression is gonna be looked at, oh, look at, they promised no pay to win and now they're adding pay to win, you know? So I personally don't think it was that smart for them to say that out loud, because I think it's gonna screw them over later on. Even if they add like a small amount of pay to win, people are gonna say, look, they broke their promise, I don't want to play this game anymore, they are liars. So that's basically how internet works at this point. But yeah, that's pretty much about it when it comes to the consensus between the creators. I think it's pretty clear that Chrono Odyssey has kind of a foundation to be like a pretty good MMORPG. They seem to have the core ideas in place, like the combat, the world, some of the progression systems. It does seem like a game that a lot of modern MMO players are looking for, but a lot of the creators agreed that the game is nowhere near ready for launch. I think the beta right now is too rough and it just lacks too much polish to be released. I just don't think it's enough time to fix all the problems that the game has to have like a successful release. It has a lot of potential if they can smooth it out, but I think that's something we have to wait and see. I think mostly the creators were quite positive about the game. They don't want to be too harsh on it because they don't want to burn any bridges. So I'm really curious to see what happens on the 20th when more people get to actually play the game. Then we're going to hear how the actual community kind of feels about the game. Because now I've been reading a lot of the online discourse about the game, and it seems to be more towards the negative right now, which could be just the internet thing, but it could be just that the negative people are louder on the internet, but people are not too happy what they seen so far. And I can kind of agree with that. I was really on board after hearing the interview, like the full interview and what they told us about the game. But after I saw that like 17-minute gameplay video, I was like, okay, it doesn't look that great, honestly. It reminded me of like Bless Unleashed for some reason. I think it has those vibes a lot, which is fine. I didn't completely hate Bless Unleashed. It was in a very similar spot. I feel like the foundation for that game was great, but the execution was terrible. So I think Chrono Odyssey is kind of in a similar spot right now where they have a pretty good core foundation. It all depends on the execution now. How they're gonna do it. How good are they at listening feedback and fixing up their issues? That will decide if this game is successful or not. But yeah, tell me in the comments, what do you think about Chrono Odyssey? Have you watched all these reviews? Were you like disappointed after you saw the gameplay? I would love to hear that. Give this video a like if you find it helpful. Maybe even subscribe to my channel. Really helps me out. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.